everybody, this is Valerie Van Boeven, and I just want to say hi, and we are live on our LTC Marketing University Facebook live broadcast that we do every Wednesday at 3 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Central, and we're so glad you could join us today. This is going to be kind of short and sweet because we are going to do a full webinar that goes through this in a lot more detail next week on August 18th. And of course, I will do it live, but not on Facebook Live. It's actually a go-to webinar. So I will send you all the registration link to that webinar, and I'll go into what we're going to talk about today, but in a lot more detail. And it'll be about an hour. So this is going to be more like 20 minutes or so, 30 minutes, maybe less, depends on if we have questions or not. And then next week, we'll do it more in depth. So here is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about increasing your revenue by 10% annually using one online marketing strategy. So there's one thing you can do to increase your revenue by 10% if you do it over the course of an entire year. And that is something that you're going to say, but you need to do it anyway because, again, you need every edge in the home care industry and the marketing. So that is an automated e-newsletter. And you can see a couple of examples there. And I'm going to talk to you about how these look because I'm going to guess that you're not blown away by these, but they are very effective. And I'm going to tell you why in just a minute. So the main thing that I want to go over is avoiding follow-up failure. Now, follow-up failure is something that happens when you go to all these networking events or you go to a senior fair and there are 500 seniors there and you get names, addresses, maybe some emails. Not everybody will give that out, but maybe you get a few of those. You go to chamber meeting and you meet a bunch of people. You've got business cards galore, but you're so busy that you're not following up with these folks. So although in a very personal or professional follow-up that's catered to that person is really important, you can avoid follow-up failure, at least on a light level, by making sure that every single person that you meet, if you get an email address for them, you add them to your e-newsletter list. Now, there are some rules behind that, but if you add them to your list and you have an automated newsletter that goes out all the time, that goes out one time per month, and you just kind of set it and forget it, then you don't have to worry about follow-up failure. Once you've met that person, you certainly should communicate with them more than just an e-newsletter, but the e-newsletter in and of itself helps avoid follow-up failure. So that's why it increases your revenue by 10% over the course of a year. That's one of the reasons. What we see at LTC Expert Publications is that when our clients are sending out a regular newsletter, and it's automated, and I'll tell you all about that in just a second, there's a lot of increase in communication. There's a lot of increase in follow-up. So somebody that may have inquired 6 months ago receives your newsletter and suddenly they need help. We'll talk about that in a minute too. Okay, so we're going to go through a few slides that talk about automation, how to set it up, and a few things you should know about where the content comes from. So why an automated newsletter? Well, first of all, the lead time, or to close a lead, the time that takes for most senior services, it's either right now, we need help, or it's maybe in a few weeks, or it's 6 months, a year, sometimes 2 years. So we have adult children and caregivers all over the map. Some of them know that it's coming. They know that their aging parent's going to need help, but they're really not quite there yet. Or some people, mom falls and breaks her hip, she comes home from the hospital, they absolutely know right now they need companion care or Medicare home health care in the home. They know it, and they know it right now. Or she needs to live in assisted living, or she needs to see an elder law attorney, and they're already in crisis, and the time is now. But there are others who see the future, and they know that it's coming, and those leads don't close instantly. But why lose the opportunity to close that lead when you could be following up with them every single month through your newsletter and at least sending them some educational information? So like I said before, if let's say my mother, maybe she's doing okay at home by herself, but she could use a little help from time to time. But overall, she's pretty independent. But then she falls and breaks her hip, or maybe she has a stroke, or something else happens, and we all realize that it's really time for home care, or it's coming. All those months that I kind of knew she probably could use a little help, I may have inquired with a few home care agencies. I may have done my research, learned how much it costs, how we're going to pay for it. But then the minute something acute happens, and I said acute, not cute, minute something acute happens, I need help right now. So if your newsletter is the newsletter that just happened to be in my inbox this morning or this week, you might be the home care agency that I call because you bothered to put me on your list, your email newsletter list, and nobody else did. So you might be the person I call because I've been receiving your stuff for months, and maybe I deleted it every single month before now, but this time your phone number's at the top and I'm going to call you. So that's why this is so important. And that's why it increases your revenue, because you never know where that lead's going to come from. So options for automation. There are a couple of options that we use at LTC Expert Publications, and I'll explain why in a minute. We only use two different systems, or I guess software, online software for our newsletters. One is MailChimp and one is Campaign Monitor. We do not use Constant Contact, not because we don't think they're fabulous. I'm sure they are. I've used Constant Contact. I know newsletters are pretty, but we're going to talk about that in just a second too. Campaign Monitor and MailChimp have services that allow you to set it and forget it. So just like, Ron Popeil with all those infomercials he did, he would set it and forget it. Well, this is sort of an infomercial for Campaign Monitor and MailChimp. You can set your newsletter system up, make sure everything's there, and it's all done via RSS feed, and you can forget it. You have to go in, of course, and add emails and add contacts to your newsletter list so you know everybody's getting it. And it's always good to check on it, but essentially you can have this automated. So where does the content come from? And this is where you come in again. Your blog posts or your articles that you're posting, now we talk about this all the time. You need to have a website, you need to have a blog where you're posting articles, and that blog needs to have something called an RSS feed. Most of the time, that comes with every website. We use WordPress. Every WordPress website has its own RSS feed. But in order to make this work, you have to post content every single week or every single day. You have to put something on there. So your blog articles or your posts go from the RSS feed directly to your e-newsletter. So Campaign Monitor or MailChimp, the MailChimp or the Campaign Monitor takes that RSS feed and creates that newsletter. If you don't add any content to your website or blog for a month, then you will have no newsletter. So although this is automated, it still depends on you to actually post content. And that's why a lot of home care agencies will call us. They don't need a website, but what they do need is weekly content, and they need some, help learning how to submit that company news and why that's so important. So that's how your e-newsletter is created, and then it distributes to all of your folks on whatever day of the month you tell it to. So here's an example. Each article in the newsletter is a blog post on your website from the previous 4 to 5 weeks. So if you look at this little picture on the left-hand side, or I guess on my left-hand side, I can see that there are 3 articles that I've got in this screenshot. Family Caregivers, What to Expect. And there's a Read More button, Tracking Seniors Who Wander Off, and a Read More button, and one of our age juggles work, school, and a young son. Now that's company news. So these are posts that were on the blog of this client, and the newsletter system took them and turned them into excerpts. So let's look at this a little bit bigger, and I want to explain something to you. You see how this is pretty plain Jane. There's not a whole lot going on here. You don't see a bunch of pictures. Now this is a screenshot of the middle of this newsletter. It's not got the top added to it with all the branding, but this is kind of what the middle looks like. And there's a reason for this. This is a very easy to read, mobile responsive newsletter. And the reason we do this is because most of your prospects and their adult children and all the folks that are looking for home care, a lot of them are on mobile devices now. In fact, probably most of them are on mobile devices, unless they're sitting at their laptop or they're at work sitting at their desktop. They're probably looking at your stuff on a mobile device. So your newsletter needs to be, number one, very easy to read, very easy to scroll through. If we had loads and loads of text on this page that went on and on with these dissertation of all these articles, nobody would ever read even one article. We are a very fast-paced society, and people want to be able to scroll through, click on what they want to read, and then move on from there. So if you were to click on the title, Family Caregivers, What to Expect, or if you were to click on the Read More button, you would be taken back to the client's website, The Perfect Home Care in New York. You'd be taken back to their website and to that exact article. And their website is also mobile responsive. Therefore, you're going to see everything clearly and plainly and easily from your mobile device. We also keep this without a lot of HTML coding, because the more HTML you have in your newsletter, the more likely it is to go to spam. So there are lots of reasons. Having a really super pretty, awesome, amazing newsletter is great. But if it gets labeled as spam and never reaches people's inbox, it's not doing you any favors. And if it's hard to read because it's not mobile responsive, that also creates problems. So you want it to be easy on the eyes for seniors, easy to scroll through, and easy on mobile devices. And that's my recommendation for your newsletter. So the need for a great content strategy is a must for all marketing in 2016. You can't get away from the fact that you need content. And if you have a hard time coming up with a lot of great content for your site, and I understand that most of you who watch this video or who are in this business, you wear a lot of hats. You are a home care agency owner or a senior service business owner of some kind, or you're a marketer. You're supposed to be out there closing the deal, not sitting at your desk writing articles. I have to say, though, that some of that is really important in order to close the deal in 2016. Online authority, online trust, and online content are super important. So you need to make that part of your marketing plan. Also, you need to know that to have that newsletter and to have that great Facebook feed and to have those Twitter tweets go out automatically, you have to, and all the time, you have to make sure you have a content strategy. LTC Expert Publications does that all the time for our clients. We post every single week, and we take care of our clients and help them understand more about submitting company news. And we encourage that all the time. So back to me. Kind of just to bring it all together, you should have an online e-newsletter. It should go out one time per month, and it should be automated. And it doesn't have to be ritzy and glamorous and cost $1 million to go out and full of HTML. It can be simple, easy to read, and you can make sure that it goes out to all of your contacts. As long as there is an unsubscribe or an opt-out somewhere, people can always opt out or unsubscribe anytime they want. But for the most part, if you are putting your colleagues, your professional referral sources, your consumers that you've met, the adult children of aging parents that you serve, leads that never close, put all those people into that newsletter list, you really will see a difference if you track where those leads are coming from. And we track it all the time. We ask people on our forums and everywhere else, how'd you hear about us? And sometimes they say via your emails, I got your email, or someone forwarded me your email. So the same thing can happen for you. So that is our live broadcast for today. If you would like, please join us next Wednesday. We will talk about another easy, cool marketing tip. We will also take any questions that you might have. So if you're watching this replay later, a really good idea is to just go ahead to the comments and type in your question. You can see from other videos that we do go back and answer all the questions. So we're happy to do that. We will be on the air again next Wednesday. Just come here to facebook.com/LTC Marketing U, the letter U, at 3 p.m. Eastern or 12 noon Pacific, and we'll talk about another great marketing tip for senior service providers and home care agencies. And in the meantime, if you need anything, you can email me at valerie@ltcep.com, or you can call us at 888-404-1513. Thanks so much for joining us on Facebook Live, and we will see you next week.